Well, let's talk a little bit about your own background, because I like to hear stories about how people got where they are today. So in listening to your current bio, writing articles for Running Times and active.com and running a website for high school triathlon coaches, that's a pretty high level of coaching skill. But let's rewind the clock here. Do you remember your very first running race?
Yeah, I do. It was a field day in about second or third grade, and I was running the hurdles. Anatomically, my legs are pretty long. I'm 5'11", but I have fairly long legs and a short torso. So I don't know how that translates to the triathlon world, but
you'd be a fast biker too, probably.
All right.
You might struggle with the swim a little, but I could help you with that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I ran in high school. I was good enough to walk on at the University of Colorado. I grew up in Castle Rock, Colorado. I ran 4:25 for the 1600. So so that would equate to about 4:19 for sea level, if I had grown up somewhere else. And so that meant that I wasn't a scholarship athlete, but I was somebody that they wanted on the team.
Okay.
I was on the team for 5 years. There's a book called Running with the Buffaloes. Yeah, that was my 5th year that book was written. And I was actually in grad school that year studying kinesiology and applied physiology. And as many of you know in the sport, Neil Henderson, who is a very well-respected coach, he and I were in the same graduate program at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I ran 14:20 for 5K. I ran 3:49 for 1500. I hate my 10K PR because it's 30:15. If I could just have run 15 seconds or 16 seconds faster.
You want to get the 16 seconds off.
Been under 30 minutes. But yeah, I was fortunate enough to be on good cross-country teams, even though I wasn't really a great cross-country runner. And then from there, I went to coach at Pratt Community College.
Did you know when you were at CU that you wanted to become a running coach?
Yes. At that point, somewhere around my junior or senior year undergrad, I knew I wanted to coach. I was on kind of a pre-med track. Then I had taken the dental admissions test and thought I wanted to be a dentist for a while. But then I knew I wanted to coach. At that time, if you wanted to be a college coach, you really need to have a master's, so it made sense to just enter that master's program.
Sure.
I don't know if everybody understands this, but you basically have 5 years to complete 4 years of eligibility.
For NCAA athletes?
Yeah, so if you get hurt 1 year, then you can still graduate in 4 years, but then come back for that 5th year and compete. So probably the busiest year of my life was that 5th year where, I was a teaching assistant. I was going, I was in grad school, and I hadn't run well the last couple of years, but my 5th year of running was probably my best year of running at CU. So
it was your busiest year time-wise, but also your best year of running. What do you attribute that to?
Well, yeah, and if you go back earlier, I ran 14:20 for 5K as a sophomore in college, and I was taking organic chemistry and physics, and that was the most intense year academically as an undergrad. So I was fortunate, and I do think this is fortunate. Some people are going to laugh at this. I mean, we'd go to bed at 9:30 on a Saturday night because we'd have a 20-mile long run on Sunday morning. And so my life was basically running and school.
Yep.
That transitioned a little bit. I met a woman who, I'd eventually marry. I met her towards the end of my undergrad, and we were dating grad school. So there was a little more balance from a social standpoint there. But the majority of those 5 years running at CU, it was pretty much just run and try and work academically.
So your best performance in your 5th year, it sounds to me like you're simply attributing to the fact that you had consistent training all that time and you just built from 1 year to the next to the next.
Yeah, I mean, I was older. I mean, I was smarter about training. I was willing on some of I'd learned at that point the workouts I was good at and the workouts I was bad at. And I really, some people say, oh, you've got to improve the things that you're not good at. And I really don't agree with that, at least at that level of training. So for instance, we would do this 10-mile run on the Boulder Creek path. And these times won't sound fast to people who are at sea level, but, I'd maybe run 57 minutes for 10 miles. So maybe, I don't know, what is that, like 5:45 pace. And there is a pretty big hill at the end of it. You'd go uphill. If you've been in Boulder, it's just the path that parallels Broadway going from the creek path back up to campus. But I'd have teammates who could run 53 minutes, 54 minutes, and I just think on those workouts, I would run hard, but I wouldn't treat it like a race. On the long runs, it was the same idea. But earlier in my career, I treated, a 20-mile run in the middle of, running 85 miles a week in single runs. At that time, running twice a day wasn't really valued in the program until you were running basically more than 85 miles a week in single runs.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was a 20-mile run on Sunday was part of that 85 miles. And my two best friends on the team, Zeke Tiernan and Chris Severy, were really good at the 20-mile run. So I wanted to be able to run with them. But in retrospect, my biomechanics are probably more of a 1,500 meter runners. I have a little more of a verticality to my stride.
Okay.
A 10,000 meter runner or a marathoner is a little lower to the ground and a little more efficient that way.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I might have been better off with like a 16 or a 17 mile long run each week, and I probably would have been better off focusing just on the track workouts as my hard days. Then again, on some of these 10-mile hard runs, just maybe running like 60 minutes or 5:55, 5:50 pace for 10 miles. Just in retrospect, it was something I wasn't very good at. But I started to figure those things out my fifth year.
So a lot of experience and just being more mature, like you said.
Yeah. In all college programs, it's somewhat template-based in terms of there's a general structure to what the training is going to look like week to week, month to month, or season to season. And so if you're better at the 1,500 or you're better at the 10,000, my theory is the first 2 years of a college training program, somebody should just immerse themselves in it and run hard every time they're asked to run hard. But then in an ideal world, I think the coach and the athlete would sit down at the beginning of the junior year and say, all right, we've figured out you're not good at these track workouts. Why don't you just kind of get through those, but not try and grind those out? And the flip side is you're really good at the long run. Let's try and do a progression long run where 10 miles controlled, 5 miles a little faster than 5 miles hard. So you're getting your 20-mile run in that way.